Welcome back, folks, to another episode. This week, we have Mikey with us. We're going to have a great conversation about positive thinking and manifestation. Welcome to the show, Mikey.
Nice. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
Can you share with our audience a little background about yourself, sir?
Yeah. So I'm currently living in Seguin, Texas. I'm an instructor for the Trinity School of Natural Health. So I'm the program chair for their Master Herbalist program. I work from home, from online. We teach all sorts of things as far as herbalism and nutrition and different natural health modalities. Married, wonderful wife. Been married for almost 15 years now. I have 3 kids. As old as 27. I got two grandbabies, one on the way. Got a son at home who's also 13. So
Oh,
nice
wow.
little family.
And what exactly do you guys do at that school?
So they provide certifications and stuff like that. There are health coach certifications. There's another program called the Certified Natural Health Professional. That's a pretty comprehensive program. They kind of teach holistic anatomy and things like that, how to address what they call the foundations of health, right? Eating right, drinking enough water, rest, stress, all those things. They also have programs on reading the eyes, iridology, some Chinese medicine, facial diagnosis, quite a number of things.
So, Mikey, getting back to positive thinking, I mean, how has that affected your life overall? And where have you noticed the changes? And have you always been positive?
Definitely more of a recent outcome. So, like many of us, I come from a little bit of childhood trauma here and there. I mean, I had a great upbringing, great parents and stuff like that, abusive siblings. So, but I will say I did come from a very negative kind of, at least on my mom's side, she's a very negative person in that she always sees an issue with something. Nothing's ever good enough. She only sees the problem, right? And not the benefit. So I think I internalized a lot of that. Definitely dealt with severe depression since about 12 or 13. So that has always been a challenge. Depression definitely has a way of hijacking your thoughts and your perspective and making things worse than they actually are. So, I feel like I struggled with that a lot and didn't really put much thought into my mindset. But we were 2017-ish, I guess. We had my herb shop. My parents were still helping me pay the mortgage. My wife had started a cleaning business. We were getting by paycheck and having to borrow money. And I was in a really bad way. And I just remembered hearing about, The Secret or mindset. And I had free time on my hands. Nobody was coming to the shop. So I started doing some research and found an audio book, and it completely changed my perspective. I mean, the first thing was just about being able to quiet your mind, right? And just stopping that noise. I have a lot of that. My mind is a very busy place. It's always going. I suffer from what they call internal echolalia, which is like a repetition of sounds, like getting a song stuck in your head or some short bit. That goes on all the time. So I have a lot of noise, a lot of chaos, and learning how to just quiet the mind and understanding that you are ultimately in control of your thoughts, no matter what's going on, even in the throes of deep depression, right? There's still that voice back there that can step back and observe and analyze things and not get sucked into that emotional drive, right? And once I started learning that, it changed my life, almost overnight.
How did you quiet the noise? Did you do it through meditation?
I've been trying to meditate for many years, and I feel like I just get tired or fall asleep. It's almost sheer will. I mean, there's, I guess, so many different ways to do it. I think for me, it's more or less just trying to become present, right? Just thinking about all the sensations, the noises and things around, and not just being stuck in that noise in my head. But there's many different ways. I used to visualize a wall stopping my thoughts. I used to visualize my mind as sort of a sieve, right? Every thought that comes through just kind of leaks through and you just don't attach to it. And it's still a practice, right? I'm still not proficient at it. I still have a lot of trouble being present. But understanding that I can be at any moment is really what helped give me the power back.
Yeah, 2017, roughly that's about the same time I kind of had the switch in my head. I was going through some negative times back then, and I seek some help through a relative. And he kind of got me started on the right path as far as having a positive outlook on things and not concentrated on the news. Like, Mikey, do you ever watch the news?
I don't. I have never been a political person. I don't follow either camp. I've never voted for any president. So I'm a little odd in that respect. And I don't really like watching the news. I think from a younger age, I was able to see that it was a lot of just fluff. And I'm definitely what you would call a conspiracy theorist. So I try not to. But, we all have social media. I'm still very bad for scrolling on Instagram or TikTok or whatever if I have a moment to kill time. And that's about the only way you feel connected, especially moving here. I don't have any kind of social network or friends to speak of. So that's like your only replacement for human connection. So more than I should.
Yeah, I cut out the news because I was getting deep into political stuff, and I was consumed with it. And my relative's like, "Hey, man, you can't do anything about it. So just zone it out. Don't even pay attention to the news." So I turned it off for a couple of years overall. And then last year, I was at my grandparents' house, so we were waiting for Wheel of Fortune to come on, and the news came on, and it was like shocking. It was like a hit to the face because everything was negative. It was a fire, somebody got kidnapped, there was a shooting. It was just like there was so much pollution for your mind that, granted, you need to know if you're in danger. Like, right, if something's coming, but we all know there's bad people out there. So we don't need to be told repeatedly, if there was a car wreck in LA, that's terrible, but I don't need to know about it, so it's crazy. But when I watched the local news, how every story for a half hour was just a negative fear thing to get you to watch the next story. And it was like, I'm not going to go fight that fire. I have smoke detectors in my house. I think it's terrible, but like, I just don't need to know about that stuff because it doesn't benefit me mentally. That's great that you, from an early age, you've just zoned that out. What kind of entertainment do you watch at night then?
I do. I mean, I do watch some shows with the missus, some stuff on Netflix or whatever, kind of thing. She loves what she calls trashy TV, so she watches all the housewife shows and those, Love at First Sight and all that stuff. And so I do watch, a lot of that programming. But I guess I'm fortunate, and then I take a step back and realize that a lot of it can be programming or superficial or whatever. But so I do consume regular media just like the rest of us. But I think the important bit is just being aware, like you said, some of this information, this stuff that we can't do anything about, it's not anything that's going to benefit us knowing that intellectually, right? And you we have all just accepted stressing over stuff as some kind of normal social behavior when it doesn't do us any good, right? The stressing about something doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't make you feel any better. It doesn't make you think any clearer, but we all just accept and do it. And one concept from that book I remember that really resonated with me is every thought either takes you towards the life you want or away from it. There's no in between, right? Every thought is putting you in one direction, so you have to be diligent about what those thoughts are and not. Once I just stopped stressing, I just was like, well, there's no point to it, so I'm just going to not. That really changed things.
Oh,
And a
wow.
lot of people don't understand, have a problem with that concept, like you said,
Matthew McConaughey in a interview one time, I believe a friend of his friend's dad was passing away, and it was a good friend of his. So he went over to kind of see him on his deathbed, and he was having a conversation with him. And, it was the old question, what would you change in life? And the guy said, I would have stopped worrying about things because you spend 90% of what you worry about is never going to happen. And so all that time is wasted. And if something does happen, handle it when it does happen. But why worry about it? So I've really been trying to take that on. Like, if I'm running late to an appointment, I'm like, if the appointment's at 10 a.m. and it's 9:50 and I'm 20 minutes away, you know what? I'm not late yet. So, until 10:01 happens, I'm not late. I'm not going to worry about it. So, I've really, and then half the time you show up on time somehow anyways. But yeah, it's amazing how much time we spend worrying about stuff that you have no control over. And a lot of times it never even happens. I have some family members worrying about when they pass away, what's going to be done with their stuff. And I just keep saying, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you. You can't take it with you. Why worry about it? But Mikey, have you ever manifested anything in your life?
I have lots of things. Gosh, I don't even know where to start with that. I mean, I remember playing around with it when I was younger, and certain things happened. But definitely my job for one thing. Just the brief kind of story. I grew up in the natural health field, so I have always known how to do these things, how to read the eyes, how to work with people and clients. And once I opened my store in 2013, I was seeing clients and things were going good, but I didn't have any kind of certifications, right? All of this I learned by osmosis or just naturally. And I would get those occasional comments like, hey, what's your certifications? Who are you? Why should I listen to you? And so that kind of stuck with me. And I decided, all right, I should go to school and get some certifications. And I'd like to round out my education. And I got signed up, and I remember starting class and thinking, wow, there's somebody on the other end that's grading these things and writing these lectures. I was like, that sounds like a cool gig. And I was like, you know what? I want to totally rock at this, get my certification, and I'm going to impress them so much they will ask me to come work for them. I was kind of joking with the family and the wife and all that stuff. And I went through the program. I aced my case studies and went to the live events. And 2 months after I graduated, I got a call out of the blue, and they said, we were really impressed with you, and we would love you to come teach for us. So like right there, I had manifested this huge goal, like to a T, And there are definitely other thoughts, but I remember thinking that, like, I can't doubt this now because I've done it with so many things, even moving to Texas or little things. Like, you really do, it really does work. But I think the key is being detached about how you get there and when you get there.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't have expectations how it happens for you. Just be able to receive it when it does happen for you. A couple of years ago, I've signed up for a half marathon at Disney for a number of years, like 4 times. Either I was out of town, I was out of shape, or I was in shape, but my boss wouldn't give me time off from work. But my wife, we signed up for it, and she trained the whole time, and I let life get in my way. I started training, and then I fell off of the training for about 4 or 5 months, but every morning I would sit down for an hour and concentrate on what I wanted to accomplish. I would meditate on a couple different subjects, but one was to finish that race. So I would, what it's like to be at the race, what it smells like, what it feels like.
I love that.
And visualize at the race, the sound goes off, and then you start running. Obviously you can't go through the whole race, but then what it feels like, how great it feels to finish the race. And I did that hundreds of times before the race. I was 342 pounds at the time of the race. I did not weigh myself. Because I did not want the negative thoughts. I was like, hey, I'm where I'm at.
Right. Doesn't matter.
It's like to worry about things you cannot control. Like, I'm here now. So I ran in the 4 months or 5 months leading up to the race. I ran 1 mile, and that was just to test out some running shorts the week of the race. Other than that, I had not ran at all. And I got to the race, but in my head, I had done it hundreds of times. At the race, I was like, told my wife, I'm like, look, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna do my best. I'm not gonna kill myself because we're on vacation too. But if you had told me, Mikey, like, hey, go to the Walmart parking lot and run across the parking lot, I'd be like, you're crazy. I can't do that. Right. That's what you're crazy. But when that gun went off and everybody starts running, I ran 8.5 miles without stopping. I did ended up having to stop around mile marker 9 because my toenails were leaving my body, and the pain got too much. But I walked the rest of it, and I finished the race. But once again, if you meditate on something and think about it enough, your mind and body doesn't know if that's a real memory or did you manufacture it. I mean, if you put yourself in that situation, and obviously it felt way better doing it than I could come up in my own head, but I could barely walk for 4 days. I'm not going to lie there. But I was the fattest person there at the race. But after that, you couldn't tell me anything. I was like, we went to Cocoa Beach, and I was like, oh, I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes and think about how to surf, and I'm going to go out there and surf. Everything was like, I'm going to manifest everything now, babe. Right. Like the house we're living in now, I just visualized, I wanted to make the house the best version of the house I could possibly make it for. It's a Craftsman, downtown Seguin. So it is what it is. But I was like, hey, I want this to be the best possible house. And when I'm meditating on it, I was like, oh my God, it feels so good to be home. I love this house. I love the beach. My wife won't let us move to Florida, so I got to bring Florida here. So to me, it's kind of a beach vibe in our house. And once we started doing the construction, it lasted 8 months. the house turned out the best it possibly could have. I don't think we would have changed a thing. But I mean, I thought about it for months and months and months ahead of time. And just put good vibes out there, and just don't let the negative stuff slow you down. Mikey, once you start on the whole positive thinking path, it's amazing when you start talking to certain people and when they become negative, it's like, boom, it's like a shock to your system. You're like, oh crap, like I never noticed this before. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's one of the biggest challenges, right? Like once you switch that positive mindset, you become very sensitive to negative things, negative comments, and whatever else. And I think that was the other thing that really helped me latch on to the positive thinking is that I see everybody use it in reverse every day. Some of the people I know that are the most negative have the worst situations in their life because they're constantly focusing on that. And it's definitely challenging, especially when I go back to my family's. I'm not that close with them, and they are all very negative, and it's very hard for me to process, and I have to almost dumb myself down to get along with them. But it absolutely is a challenge because you hear that from people all the time and their negative mindset, and I'm definitely very sensitive to it. So it's hard, but it's a loop that people get stuck in. They don't realize they can work the other way.
And have you heard of the thing, like, whatever you put your focus in, energy flows and it only gets bigger. So, if you put good vibes out there and you look for good vibes are going to come back towards you. Like, I don't know if you've witnessed that and stuff, but
absolutely. And like I said, with my depression and a few other things, I went through a period, especially early 20s, late 30s, or late 20s, early 30s. And I had like the worst luck. Like some of the worst things would happen to me for no reason. Even my friends at the time were like, what the hell's going on with you? Like, why does this happen to you? And I was just convinced that I was this downtrodden, hard done by person that just was always the dumbest or smallest guy in the room with the worst luck. And my life played out that way to a T. I remember I still study martial arts, and I remember I had to do a tournament one time for a belt requirement, and I had to go spar and do forms, and I just did not feel good enough. And I was like, as long as I don't come in last, I'll be happy. As long as I don't come in last, right? And guess what happened? I came in next to last on both of those things because I reinforced that. Once I shift my perspective and said, okay, I do have the power. I'm just not going to think, I'm just going to expect good things, and whatever happens, happens. Immediate shift. And now I feel like I'm one of the luckiest people on the planet. Life goes so smooth for me. I feel like I coast half the time. And so it just switched. I saw how much energy I was putting into the negative and just getting that back in droves. So absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, it's like when someone's driving and you're like, oh, I don't want to hit that post. I don't want to hit that post. And then you drive right into the post or something. Like you're saying I don't want to, but you're also saying want to. Like, and that's what you focus on. And instead of like, oh, I want to be over there, you're like, just focus on the negative. And how many times does that happen? You're like, oh, I don't want to hit the ball over there or whatever. And it goes exactly where you didn't want to because that's all you were concentrating on. And if you had concentrated on something over there, then the whole energy would have been over there. So now that you're in this mind frame now, when something negative happens to you, what's your response?
I generally try to polarize. Well, first, I guess I try to take a step back, right? Because we all have that gut, visceral reaction of something that, either upsets you or hurts you or things like that. I remember going through some marital stuff, and that's very hard to deal with. But I guess in the moment, I try to just take that step back and kind of take that elevator view, right? You have that voice in your head that isn't stuck with your emotions. And I honestly just try to polarize, right? So whatever emotion it may be, if it's stress, anxiety, or something bad, and I'm feeling some kind of way about it, I just think, okay, what's the exact opposite of that? And then I focus on that. I just try to focus on the exact opposite. And that was very well said, what you mentioned earlier about hitting the post, right? You're trying to get something positive through a negative lens. I don't want this to happen. You're wanting something positive, but you're looking at it as something bad might happen. And that's where you really have to shift. So for me, it's just taking a beat and trying to get my mind to go quiet and then thinking, okay, what do I want out of this situation? I know what I've been dealt, but what do I want to happen? How do I want to feel? And then I try to shift my perspective from that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent of like, there aren't good things or bad things. There's just things in the universe, and it's your perspective on these things. And granted, I say, oh, that was bad. Whatever the situation, I still say that. But like when you get stuck in a car, a car jam, what am I thinking? Traffic jam. You're like, why am I in this traffic jam? Instead of going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm stuck in this traffic jam and I'm going to be late for whatever. Instead, you go, okay, well, I'm in this situation now. What positive thing can I get out of it? And sometimes you look around and you see like a house you never really noticed, or something in front of the house. You're like, oh, that's kind of nice. If I was going 80 miles an hour, I never would have noticed that. But yeah, it's constantly like, what is the universe teaching me? Because I think the universe will give you what you want. So if you want to say that everything's against you, the universe will make everything against you. If you say life is easy, like this is perfect, making money is easy, the universe will listen to you and make that happen too.
That is so true. So true.
Like,
Absolutely. People don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, and when like one of the things people try to manifest is money, and people, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. I want to be rich. I want to be rich, and I want to work hard, and I want to make a lot of money. And it's like, don't put guardrails on how the universe is going to listen to you. Just be open to it. I want independent wealth. I want abundance. And however that might come, that might come in a big pay raise. That might come in inheritance. That might come in insurance money after an accident or something. You just don't put, I only want it this way and I'm going to be disappointed if it only comes this way. Just be, universe, I'm open to abundance. Please bring it towards me. It's so easy. Do you kind of agree with all that?
I do. I think in terms of manifestation, there's a lot of challenges in mindset, but I think money is probably one of the biggest ones, right? And that's it rules our lives. I have to work to pay the power bill to get the food. So money's obviously at the top tier. But I also think there's so much to that, and that we look at it physical, but it's so energetic. And how much money you make, I feel, is directly proportionate to how you view your self-worth and what you think you're worth personally, whether you understand that or not. I remember seeing some kind of study or graph that would show that people, as they age, their income increases by default. People in their 30s generally make this amount, people in their 40s. And as you get older, you tend to make more money. And I feel like the only correlation is because you just become wiser and you get this better sense of self-worth. We just expect that you make that money. And if you could shift that, I think it'd be a lot better. Finances is definitely something that I struggle with, especially because I borrowed money from my family. My mom is one of those that money is how she shows affection and love, and she likes to hold that over you. And so I still find myself being a penny pincher, right? And I will try and download something for free versus spending $2 to buy it, which is not a healthy habit. And so I think that's very difficult to do. But with finances, you should always just expect it to come to you. A lot of times when I have to pay a big bill, I will frame it as that I'm creating a void, right? I'm creating space for more money to come back into my account. You
I
have
like
to
that.
spend it. Yeah, spend it to make it. Money flows, right? It doesn't just come and stay. It's going to come and go. So you have to get with that flow. But I also have to understand, I'm worth it. I'm worth having that kind of money because I have that value. And I think a lot of people don't really believe that to their core. And I think that holds them back financially.
Yeah, and if you hold on to something too tight, it won't come towards you. Like you said,
Absolutely.
money comes and goes. That's the design of money. Like you can only do a couple things with money overall. And I feel like if you're generous with people, people will be generous with you overall in your life. But yeah, if you sit there and go, oh my God, I'm worried about money. I'm worried about money. Guess what? You're gonna have money issues. I mean, and if you sit there and go, man, my life's great, and just be thankful for what you have overall. Maybe you don't have the nicest car, but you do have a car, and just put it out there in the universe. Like, I'm open. And, my wife's getting on the same page with me about this stuff, but like, we'll go out and I'll just get a sense from the waitress or something at a restaurant. I'm like, I think they're having a bad day. It's just a couple, let's just say the bill is, whatever. You normally would tip $7, $8. What's $3 more in your pocket? Nothing overall in your whole scheme of life, but you could really make that person's day. Like, one time I went to the Mexican restaurant, Garcia's here in Seguin, and there's a waitress we really enjoy. And one time I went to her and she handed me the bill, and I go, so and so, you can write your own tip. And she freaked out so much. She's just, I can't. I'm like, anything you write on that page will be fine. Because I knew she wouldn't go too crazy.
Right.
But I wanted her to go a little crazy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have offered it to her. But she did, she did hand it back. She couldn't. And I get it. I mean, you got 1,000 things going on. I'm just, she had to move on to the next table. But, and I felt comfortable with her. I don't know if I do that with every waiter or waitress out there is like, but like just brighten up people's days and it's just a little bit. It's amazing what little bit gestures do and that go a long way and just put a smile on people's face. But
it is. And even those small things, like it's only a couple bucks, but I do try to tip big. For one, I've worked in the service industry, so I know how important that is. But two, I try to frame it as, I can afford those few extra bucks. So I should give back. I should feel good giving to others. That's what I would want to receive. So it's reciprocal in nature. So I'm going to give what I can. And I also try and get in that habit of every dollar I spend to just be grateful. I'm so grateful I have this money I can spend on this, and try to, instead of giving out that money and going, ooh, that was $100. That was hard. I try to flip it and be like, man, that's awesome. I got 100 to spend, and that really helps your day to day. I feel like.
And if something happens, like an accident, I don't know, like you have to spend extra money on something. Obviously, you don't want to spend extra money, and I can't come up with a scenario right now. But let's say you have to pay an extra $100 for something, and we just had a crack in our windshield. Let's just say we just did it yesterday, and now we're going to have a $500 new windshield put in 2 days, and it's like, obviously, you don't want that. But you have that coming, so just embrace it and like, okay, well, I guess I'll meet a new friend today when he puts in my new windshield in the car. And I guess I didn't need that $500 that much. It's like you can't change the situation, so just be positive about it and find the positive in everything and just don't concentrate on the negative. And in the mornings before I started making this mindset change, when I was driving to work, I had so many negative thoughts in my head. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that person did that to me last night. You like, I can't believe I'm going to give him back or whatever. And you just like psyching yourself up in the morning. And once I started making this switch in my head, it just really caught me off guard. I'm like, oh my God, like in the morning, I'm just so negative. And I don't know if it's because of what I'm listening to or what I'm watching or what I, fell asleep watching to last night. But in the morning, it's almost like to get you going in the morning, to get you revved up, like all these negative thoughts, the universe is against me, this person's against me. And then and now I just cut it off right away. And I'm like, no, and sometimes I'll live in it. I'll know it. And I'm like, okay, let's see where this takes me, just to go, mentally, like, okay, let's see how long I'll stay in this zone. Negative, but then I'll flip out of it. Eventually I'll just like, okay, enough of this nonsense. Like, let's get back to the positive vibes and stuff. And, like I've switched like all my TV shows. I won't like watch Law and Order anymore because it's just people dying and I don't need to see all that. It's like, I'll just watch game shows or just light fluffy stuff. Or I'll watch shows from the 80s. That's kind of my new thing right now.
Love it.
I got my Golden Girls Cup because everything's going to work out okay, and it's a half hour and it's back to nonsense again. But have you ever heard of the comedian Nikki Glaser?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar. Yes.
Yeah, she was on the Tom Brady roast. She's been on Howard Stern a bunch. Attractive blonde lady, but she was on Dancing with the Stars a couple of years ago, and she loved the show. She really wanted to do well, but she was the first one voted off. But that first week while she was training, she injured her arm, and I forget what she did, but she said in the morning, the morning of the dance for the TV, her arm would like just hung, like she couldn't even move it. She was in extreme pain. She ended up talking to a gymnastics coach, and the gymnastics coach said, repeat these lines over and over again. I'm strong. I'm prepared. This is easy. Just say it nonstop. And so she just started saying it over and over again out loud. And she got in the taxi to go to the TV show, and she just says, "Sorry, I'm not crazy, but I gotta say this. I'm strong. I'm prepared. This is easy." And she said she repeated it for hours and hours and hours, and slowly her arm started to come back. And by the time the TV cameras turned on, she had full range of motion. that morning she had nothing, like
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
And she just talked herself back into, I'm strong, I'm prepared, I'm easy, and this is easy. And I stole that from her too when I was running. A couple times when it got tough, when I was running my first half, like I was like, okay, I'm strong, I'm prepared, this is easy, I'm strong, I'm prepared. And also too, when I was running, I was just thankful. Every time I passed a mile marker, like, thank you. And I said thank you to my guardian angel, but I'm like, hey, thank you for letting me reach one. Thank you when I hit two. Thank you. And I'm just, have you ever heard, like, love is the strongest emotion out there in the universe, and then like the next strongest thing is like being grateful and thankful for
Yeah.
stuff. So I mean, what kind of stuff are you thankful for in your life that some people would overlook?
Yeah, so into gratitude, man, that has been a daily practice for me for a while. And I feel like if people are trying to start down this path, so those are some of the best places to start. I mean, obviously think positive, but being grateful for those things around you. My wife and I have this built-in habit of doing it now because we've been practicing for so many years. And we just like, I'm so grateful to be in Texas. We wanted to be here. We're here. I'm grateful we have this beautiful home. Our kids are healthy. Even the little things. I'm grateful that I have such delicious coffee I get to drink in the morning. Any kind of moment to just step back and to be grateful for those things that you tend to overlook in your day. And I feel like if you get in that habit, you're given more of that. When I started my job working from home, I loved it. The money was better than I thought it would be. And I talked all the time about how grateful I was for that job. And it's only gotten better. I've gotten more responsibilities, more money. My wife now does the same thing. So I've seen these things bloom just from paying them a little bit of, homage, if you will, right? A little bit of gratitude and just saying, man, I'm really thankful that this is in my life. So I try to do it with anything, and I try to do it daily. And I'm also one of those, if I see the clock at like 11:11, right? It's a family thing. I got my kids doing it. We're like 11:11 now. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful to spend this day with you. It takes 1 minute out of your day, but I feel like it does so good for your mindset and just reinforces things.
Yeah, I just got into the clock thing too in the last couple months. But yeah, 11:11 or 1 2 3 4 or
Right.
whatever kind of pattern, it's crazy. And you might not be looking at your phone or your watch, and then all of a sudden you look over and you're like, I wasn't looking at the time, but it once again, what you put energy into will come back to you. So like if you put positive energy into the what time it is, and then you'll get positive energy back from that. So like some people are like, whatever, it's this time. I'm like, I don't know. It's a couple minutes out of the day where you could put positive vibes out there, like, oh wow, it's 11:11, make a wish or tell somebody you love them, or the universe is smiling back at you.
Yeah. I think there's magic to it. That it does happen one time a day, but like I'm 9 times out of 10 when I see it, I'm not looking for it. I just happen to glance at the clock, and it's like I catch it almost every day, no matter what I'm doing. And I feel like that's part of that nod back from the universe, right? That we've got you. You really is something to this.
Absolutely. And like you were saying a little bit earlier, like the more you're thankful for stuff, the more you'll be thankful for stuff, because you'll just start noticing, like you said, a cup of coffee. Most people are like, whatever, it's a cup of coffee. You're like, no, thank you for this cup of coffee and then, but the more you just keep thanking the universe for minor little things, the more stuff will come towards you. And once again, you just put the positive vibes out there and you're not concentrating on what you can't control and stuff. Um, have you heard of have you heard or seen the video where the scientists play? I've done it a couple different times. Towards water and ice,
Mm-hmm.
and where they'll say positive things towards ice, and they'll on one section, and then another section they'll say negative things towards ice, like positive, obviously, I love you, you're great, you're fantastic, and then on the negative they'll say it towards the water, I hate you, you're terrible, you're worthless, nobody loves you, and then the ice will freeze uh in the with the negative stuff, it'll be blurry and it'll be all distorted patterns and stuff, but when the water that they said happy things to, it would have beautiful patterns and it would freeze crystal clear. Have you seen that?
I have. I love that study and the reference. And I mean, we're mostly made up of water, right? And I feel like water is just this incredible medium that's a solvent. It has so many special properties. I mean, I could go on and on about how fascinating that is, but absolutely the spoken word, people don't realize the words we use and how much impact they have, especially the ones we use up here. And as I mentioned, some of my, abuse growing up, was from a family member, and it was mostly psychological. And I had that every day. You're a piece of, you're worthless, whatever. And that really stuck with me in a subconscious level. And I had to do a lot to get out of that. But once I started reinforcing that positive, it's immediate difference, immediate change. So I just think it's fascinating. I feel like it works with plants, with anything, even that you wouldn't think is necessarily conscious, and that whole thing of, I'm not particularly religious, but even blessing your food, I feel like it will digest better. You will get more nutrients out of it. Your intention and that thought you put into something really matters, whether you understand it or not.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's amazing once you start deep diving in all this stuff, and like you can see where prayer is kind of like you're putting good thought towards your food and your family around you, so you can see how that's beneficial. The ice in the water, I've heard that years ago, but just recently I put together. Someone pointed out, like, yeah, our bodies are like 70% water. So what effect do you think that has on us? So it's like it's like, oh crap, like I've really got to pay attention to the negative thoughts, because it's really. And I think we're touching on it too. There's something going on with water. I'm not quite sure. I think there's a few more things that needs to be revealed about water, because I think there's some fascinating things. For this past Christmas, I wanted a book called like The Truth About Water. And my parents are like, "You really want a book about water?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think there's some things going on there that we're just not aware of yet, or they're, and it's in plants. Do you think plants have a consciousness? Let's talk a little crazy. Do you think?
Absolutely. And that's kind of my wheelhouse, right? In herbalism, there is something called the doctrine of signatures. I don't know if you've heard of that term before, but it's basically a theory in that the shape, form, and function of a plant will tell you a lot about what it does in the body, right? Black walnut, for instance, or even walnuts, very, very good for the brain. High in omega-3 is good for the brain function and stuff like that. Looks just like a brain, the walnut itself. You look at other herbs that are good for circulation, they are going to look like your veins and capillaries and stuff like that. So in the environment in which these plants grow in, herbs that grow in rocky and dry soil are very good for breaking up stones in the body. And they grow, herbs that grow in dry, arid areas help your body retain moisture and will moisten things, and vice versa. And so absolutely. And I've also read some studies and books and stuff that they can discern what kind of color shirt you're wearing, spoken word, they can move. I actually have a video of just one random tree like shaking, nothing else, no wind, no nothing. I've just seen them respond. So absolutely, I feel like there's so much more consciousness to plants that we don't understand and we just take for granted because they can't speak like we can. But absolutely.
Have you seen that? A lot of TikTok videos now of like someone will stand next to a branch.
Yeah.
And they'll go, "Hey, it's okay to touch me, tree. Okay to touch me."
Right.
And then and then eventually it will come over and kind of, touch their face. But it's such a tight shot.
I know.
I believe overall, but I don't know if every TikTok is being truthful, because it's such a tight shot. You don't know if their friend's over there touching the branch or something. But
that's what I imagine too. I mean, it's a very dramatic movement, right? I think slowly over time you could see a plant creep, but it doesn't have muscles like that. It's not gonna have such a dramatic shift. But I get it. I like that the theory is out there, but I do hate that people take advantage and kind of will ruin it sometimes for other people.
Have you heard? I heard I think it was a CIA director. It was a guy that was high up in the military. I'm terrible with names, but this guy was on, and he was talking about he was talking to somebody else, and he was talking about how the guy that started the lie detector test. Have you heard of this thing?
Not specifically.
So the guy that had developed the lie detector test was testing it out on a bunch of different things, and he hooked the lie detector up to a houseplant of his, and he's like, he just wanted to see when he watered the plant, how long the plant would take to respond to getting watered. So, watch the needle go off crazy and stuff. And then he did this in his apartment, and he kind of forgot about it. He left it hooked up, and he went on with his life over the next couple of weeks, whatever. And every so often, he would see the gauge move on the plant. And he's like, what's going on there? And then he started doing experiments with that, and he realized the plant was responding to him. So, And he also did an experiment where he put his white cells in the water with the plant and fed to the plant. And then the plant, when he had a reaction to something, the plant would have a reaction too. So
that's wicked.
like when at the time it was Playboy. So they did this experiment where he went into another room, left the plant there, started looking at a Playboy from, it was, I think, done in the 60s or 70s. And the thing started registering when he started having a reaction to the Playboy. And then they had him go home and watch a certain TV show, and they kind of marked it when it was a scary moment or when it was a funny moment, and to see if the plant would react to it, and it did. And then they said they did a thing to where he was 80 miles away, and he was about to give a presentation to all his colleagues, and he got really stressed, and the plant just started going off the charts, reacting to his stress level. And he said this happened back in '83. Yeah, and I was like, why didn't the government tell us about this? I mean, if people are aware of, like, plants have a consciousness to a point, and you know, there's some speculation that they can recognize people, you know, and we did a one episode about how if you put two plants in the ground that are in the same family, that came from the same seed or whatever, they'll share the soil with each other with the roots. But if you put a different plant in the ground, you know, from a different family of plants, they'll be highly aggressive towards the roots, trying to get the most water out of the. So have you heard any of that in your studies?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, so very similar to that. I just think that's very interesting that they will prioritize. You know, I remember reading some studies about plants that they would measure, and it might have been a lie detector or some way to measure their responses, but they would get a response if they just lit a match and brought it close to the plant. They would. It'd be in fear of sorts, or if you transplant something or harm another plant near them, they'll pick up on that. And then I learned about the whole fungal network of the trees, right? They use that whole system, and they can share nutrients back and forth, and every tree is connected. And it's just fascinating how much awareness and stuff that they literally have.
Yeah, and I've heard all that too. And then have you heard about the fungus with the Tokyo Railway subway system?
Oh, vaguely. Oh, did they use? Was it they used the fungi to help map out an efficient pattern?
Yeah, they had spent years coming up with the perfect subway system for Tokyo, and it had already been developed and being used. But then they put this fungus on this thing and had a couple different. Every major city they put on this map. They put some food or something, and the fungus grew the exact same pattern within 24 hours of what took them years to come up with. So like within 24 hours, the fungus went across everything, and then it streamlined it to like pipelines to each one. So it was all connected. I just think this is, I was just kind of blown away by, I think that changes everything if plants have a consciousness, and, you know, we're just now kind of coming into it. Mikey, have you heard the study where they took 30 random people, and divided them in 3 groups, and each for 3 groups of 10 people, and they had them shoot free throws? Have you heard this?
Something vaguely to. I've heard a lot of different ones, but something vaguely.
Yeah, back to positive thinking. Like, so they had 3 different groups of people. One, they did a baseline. Everybody shot free throws, so they got to see, you know, what everybody's skill level was, and then they came back in a week. But over that course of the week, they had the 3 different groups do 3 different things. One group, they wanted them to shoot free throws for like an hour every day to practice. One group, they had them do nothing but meditate, visually shoot a free throw, and have it go in and swoosh and all that. And then they had one group practice and do a little bit of meditation. And then they came back. And Mikey, which group do you think did the best?
I believe it was. I wanted to say it was the one that meditated and practiced, but I thought something along the lines of the ones who were just visualizing were almost edged out a little superior, or something along those lines.
Yeah, it was the ones that just had visualized it going in, and you know, and you can see why people have sports teams bring in the coaches in to visualize and before a sporting event to focus their energies on just making the baskets over and over and over again. Mikey, before the interview started, and we were talking yesterday about, do you think there's a universal consciousness out there?
I do. I do. I absolutely think that. I mean, there's so many names for it too, right? You can call it source, you can call it dark matter, you can call it God, you can call it whatever, but I feel like we're all connected. We're all created from that same cloth. There's this universal consciousness, and it's that intelligence that allows plants to do what they do. It's that same intelligence that your immune system always knows how to heal itself. You don't have to program it or tell it to do anything. It's just nature, right? And so I feel like there is this universal intelligence consciousness that we tap into sometimes and we don't even realize that. I love that idea of the Akashic records, or that, no thought is necessarily truly original. It's just we're a receiver and we pull it from somewhere. And I felt that. And, you can feel somebody's energy when you walk into a room, or two people think of the same thing at the same time, even though they haven't talked in years. There is something connecting us together. And we've gotten so good at compartmentalizing and separating everything. And I think that's the issue.
Yeah. Just today, my wife and I do Wordle every day. And we were in a kind of competition, and we have my mother into it, and we're in a three-way text, and we're always trying to be the best one at Wordle every day. But when I do it before her, my wife, and we're in the same house, obviously, I'll just start thinking of a different word. We'll race, but if I beat her, I'll start thinking tomato, because it has to be a 5-letter word. So it's not tomato, because I don't want her. I feel like it's all interconnected. So I'm like, you're not going to read my brainwaves. You're not going to get the answer from me. But today, I did and have you ever played Wordle?
I have not, but I do have friends that do.
Okay. Well, you have 6 chances to come up with the answer, what the word is. And today, all 5 choices, my wife and I took 5 chances to get to it. We chose the same word. Every line, we chose the same word. And I mean, it's like, and I'm sure, Mikey, you've had the same thing, to where like you're about to call somebody out of the blue. You're like, I haven't seen Dave in a long time. Let me give him a call. And then your phone rings, and Dave's calling you. And, and they say, like, if you're thinking of somebody, more than likely they're thinking of you too. And you should reach out. Last week I was in LA, and I'm in the hotel, and I'm thinking of my friends back in Indiana. And an hour later they text me, and I hadn't talked to them in like 8 months, and it's like, oh my God, and I think this stuff happens all the time on this level and everything. But I think a lot of us just tune it out, like, oh, whatever. When something magical or mystical happens, I think a lot of us just tune it out to like, oh, that's just random, whatever. I think we need to kind of focus more on it and kind of bring it more out when something kind of crazy happens in your life. Is anything crazy happening in your life, Mikey? Tough question.
Yeah, no, it is a tough question. It's 11:11. Would you look at that?
Perfect.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess a lot of different things over the years, but I definitely see a lot of that. My wife and I, we're obviously very close, good friends, but we will say the same phrases, make the same noises at the same time. Like, it creeps people out, and this happens all the time because we're so interconnected, and it's just an automatic habit at this point. Like, it just happens. And I definitely have had those situations where I might be thinking of somebody and they randomly just pop up. I mean, I get that positive reinforcements of my thoughts almost daily. So it's wild, and I see it work on other people. But I like to look at it. I mean, that's the biggest thing when you talk about manifestation. Most people are going to be like, "Well, that's just BS. Whatever you focus on, that's what you're going to see." Right? That's exactly the point. That's exactly the point. And I choose to believe in the magic in life. I don't want that reductionistic view of, well, everything's mechanical and it's just random chance and all entropy and everything's going to break apart. I don't like to look at the world that way. I like to see the magic and the things that are connected, and that sort of thing. And there's that theory, biocentrism, where we experience all of reality in here. It's not out here. Everything happens inside our head. It's my interpretation of the world. And I think that once you really look at life from that perspective, it changes everything.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that this week. There is no reality, because my reality is different from your reality. It's different than my wife's reality, because I might, once again, I might think something's great and she might think something's terrible, but it's my reality. And so what is reality anymore? And I think that's going along with you. And you hear things that everything is just light, and we're putting, this is a wall and I can't walk through it. But if you could change your mindset and change your vibration, you could walk through that wall. And it's the prism that we're putting in here just so we live the human experience while we're down here. Mikey, I love talking to you, Mikey, and we got to do this again. But thank you so much for coming on and sharing your views on everything. Hopefully, we'll have you back soon. Thank you, sir.
I would love that. I appreciate the opportunity. It was a blast.
Super. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. And until next time, see you. Bye.